Kris, thank you so much for joining us today. So you are the executive director for West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce.
That's right.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think this title, was it a little over a year that you've been in this role?
So I joined the chamber several years ago, and then I've worked to this point. Yeah. So I did interim for 6 months, and now it's been a year. What a fast year.
Has it?
Yeah. But, this is the first job that I've had that I feel like every day when I close my day down that all of my brain got used. It's really engaging because our community is strong. We're growing more than ever. And who comes to the table each day is totally engaging. Right. It's really humbling to me to see the diversity of people that are making a change in our community. And we try to lend our voice. We try to plug in with them as much as we can, just like this podcast.
Sure.
You're making change by giving people a voice that wouldn't otherwise have it. So it's exciting to be involved in all of those different things every day. So for somebody like me that's really a science nerd in the background, like I worked as a developmental geneticist for a minute, and then I was a chemist for a minute, and then I was a teacher for a minute.
So let's talk about that. So, doing research for this, I go back and a ton of stuff started pulling up about you being an architect. I'm like, man, an architect? And so it looks like you got a lot of your education. I think you have a lot of education in your background, but architect is one of them. So why an architect?
Well, that's not me.
That wasn't you?
No.
Oh, Lord have mercy. So I'm looking at the wrong.
Yeah, there's another Kristopher Kelley, and that's him.
Well, thanks for correcting the record on that.
I wish I could be artistically driven. I am a huge supporter of the arts, but not. Okay. I have no artistic ability.
So why don't you tell us about your background?
I'll tell you, the funny story is, TOPS came available in the state of Louisiana in the late 90s.
Okay.
And it was a game changer for a lot of people, including myself. And whereas I would have launched and gone somewhere else out of state, all of a sudden it was like, why wouldn't you stay here?
Absolutely.
Right? So I literally made a little chart. And one weekend, and the internet is new and it's dial-up, and I started looking at schools. And Northeast stood out because I couldn't handle LSU. It's too big. I knew financially that there would be some constraints because I didn't want to have these huge student loans.
Right.
So you start eliminating schools off, and all of a sudden Northeast came to the top. At the time, I thought I wanted to go to medical school. So I wanted somewhere that had strong sciences. So I ended up at Northeast at the time, which became ULM. And then I laughingly say I failed to launch. I stayed there, got a master's degree, worked on a postmaster's, worked on a doctorate, a bunch of things happened. And meanwhile, I started working for ULM. And then I wanted to have my own business, which I'd been doing as a side hustle for a long time, and was with marketing and signage and some other things. Did that, and then I ended up landing at the chamber. So my story is a little weird in that, I went to college. I got so wrapped up in the experience of ULM, it became a home, because until then I'd moved a bunch of times.
Okay.
And so.
But you're originally from here, right?
No, I'm not original. I mean, laughingly, I say I'm not originally from anywhere.
So you moved a lot.
I moved a lot. And so, New Orleans, Houston, Baton Rouge, and then I moved here. Now I've been here 20 plus years. So if you're 40 and you've been somewhere 20 years, that is your home.
That's home.
And you'll never find a place that's more engaging than Northeast Louisiana. You'll never find people that want to connect with you on a deep level and make them in your circle. You'll never find people that rally around you at the moment when you have need more than this community.
So that's a great point. But I also feel like you have to be willing to put yourself out there just a little bit to be able to receive that.
Absolutely.
It's one of the hardest things trying to get people to understand when they say there's nothing to do in this town. I mean, come on, really? There's a ton that's going on. You just have to be willing to say, yes, I'm going to go and explore this.
You said that to me when we sat down, and nothing gives me more anxiety than someone that says there's nothing to do in this town. We try to attend about 10% of the public events that are in this town, and I don't have a free weekend, or evening.
Yeah, I see you
Usually.
like everywhere. I'm just like, where does your energy come from, and how can I bottle up some
Well,
of that?
that's very kind. I don't know. Caffeine. But yeah, we try to plug into our community as much as possible, because to understand what's going on in your world, I need to come there. I need to experience what's going on. But also, how can you be an advocate for your community if you're not there and seeing and having those firsthand experiences? So when somebody calls us and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about coming there for a weekend, or I'm visiting my cousin," or whatever the case may be, we can talk to them for 2 hours if we need to about what's the best thing, what's going on that weekend. And then we have awesome community assets like the CVB and all those calendars.
They're very active too. It's
yeah.
it's not, you don't even have to look very hard for things. You just got to be willing to try some new things.
And put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And so just to your point, you have to open yourself up to an experience that's outside your church or outside your school or outside. Break down that wall just a little bit, and you'll discover a community that's like nothing else.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And a past client comes to mind that relocated here, I want to say from Tennessee, and she's a professor. Her and her husband are professors at ULM. And you want to talk about a couple who has embraced our culture and is involved in so much. And it's not like they had to look very hard for it. They just said, yes, I'm going to get out and give it a try and experience everything we have to offer. But not only things to do, you mentioned that people willing to help. I am still just amazed by the people who are willing to invest in you if you show the effort that you're willing to not waste their time and take it. It's from banking professionals that are willing to help coach you through, whether it be your personal finances or get you in a position to help you become a small business owner or an investor. And I mean, it's just kind of across all industries that you just have to put yourself out there.
There is a very big sense of entrepreneurial spirit in Northeast Louisiana. I don't really know what the origin of that comes from, other than if you look at our community, every big industry in a very short time built from something small.
Sure.
So we have James Machine Works. You have people starting a small welding shop that's turned into an international footprint.
You got Skyjacker.
On and on and on. And so I think it's when you see success, it seems attainable and it seems accessible. And it makes your finance people go, man, if we had just bet on them, and it makes them a little bit more open to the possibility. But you said it. There is more people that are willing to spend time and reciprocate to you than ever.
Well, let's talk about some of the assets the chamber can offer businesses. So what type of resources does the chamber, resources or education does the chamber offer to come alongside of small businesses?
So the chamber works in really 5 big silos. Okay, so education, we'll come back to it. Advocacy, which is probably the least seen from a client's perspective, but the most activity behind the scenes. So that's everything from going down to Baton Rouge, that's talking to our legislators, we see a bill moving through the House or a committee, we express, or the opposite, we express disapproval of something, or hey, this affects us in this way, and put a lot of those bills in context for those legislators and make sure that they're really hearing us. So that's one area. And then workforce development and those kind of things, those long-term projects of, hey, if we want to land this company, we've got to have the number one thing that they look for is everybody's got a piece of land. Everybody's got an electric company that's going to work with them. Everybody's got finance people that are going to help that $1 million project come. That's just it. The thing that a big plan is always looking for, besides tax incentives, is do you have people there to work and an education level that can plug into my industry? So those are long-term problems. So when you join the chamber, we're doing that in the background. And so part of you being a member is you're expressing support of us working, and you're saying, I want to be part of my community moving forward. As a small business person, there's a little bit different toolkit that we express. So let's suppose you're starting your real estate business, right? And you need some help identifying your core clients or how to market differently, or you just want market analysis. Who am I up against? We can help you get that information. We do a lot of what I call blind marketing work. So we trace somebody's digital footprint. So you come to me and say, how could I do this better? So we'll find some young people at ULM. We'll find some older people and just kind of say, hey, if this was your first impression of this person, what would it be? So if I'm looking at your social media feed and you're sharing other people's content and you don't have an original voice and there's no original content on there, that's a problem.
Right.
If I'm looking at your website and it takes me more than 3 clicks and 20 seconds to figure out what I want to find, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
If it's, if it doesn't feel fresh, if it doesn't feel modern, all of these things, people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter.
Right.
We tend to make a decision in about 3 seconds. And the flip side of that is true. We tend to take more exposures. We used to say marketing classes when I was working towards my MBA marketing, they used to say, oh, you need 7 to 10 exposures to something before, right? Now we're up in the 20s and 30s. So, and if you really want to sell me something, man, it's not just learn your name. It's you got to hit me hard because
I need to understand your value.
I got to understand the value, and more importantly, what is the value add behind the product? So I'm not just buying you and you're going to facilitate my real estate transaction. You give back to the community, and this is the person you are. I'm buying into you just as much as I'm buying your service. Maintaining that active voice is really important. So working on areas like that, maybe you have an HR issue, maybe you have a law issue. All these kind of services we work with our members on, and then we promote them. So, we have a website. We tend to get 50 or 60,000 page loads a month that are unique. And if you're looking for a restaurant, you're looking for an appliance repair person, we're funneling people off.
What do you think is the most underutilized asset that you have for business members of the chamber?
Just about every service we bring to the table, I could say, is probably underutilized. Now, we're knocking on 850 members, and we have a staff of 3.5. Okay, so in reality, if all 850 members emailed us and asked for something, we would be ill-equipped to respond.
Sure.
So, given that scenario, I always want our small business people to have a disproportionate amount of our time, because you are your own everything. You're marketing, you're your own CPA, you're your own lawyer, you're out there by yourself, and you probably know from firsthand experience, if you knew how complicated it was and how many Saturday nights at 11 p.m. you'd still be working, you might not have gone down that path.
Yeah, I can see that for so many people.
But now you're there, and hopefully you're feeling success and it's encouraging you. But to get on the other side of that curve, how do we help you get there? I don't want 79% of businesses to fail in the first year, because that means they were ill-equipped to even ask the question. There's a lot of potential businesses that come and sit down with us and we do some market analysis, like, hey, I want to open an ice cream store. Great. What's the branding? How are we going to compete with Baskin Robbins? How are we going to compete with TCBY and all the other people there? What's going to make you different? Well, we're also going to sell teas. Okay, there are 37 tea shops in the western part of the parish. What makes you different? And on and on and on. And I hate to be discouraging to people, but the worst thing that we could do is give them a false sense of
Set
audience.
them up for failure.
Right. And so, we've had a lot of recent successes in partnerships with Small Business Development Center and all that kind of stuff. Our services don't have to just be for chamber members. So if you got somebody that's thinking about a business, let's talk to them. Let's work out the logistics of it. Let's make sure they're getting every possible asset in our community. Like you said, they're there. People are willing to help. People are willing to sit down with you and talk to you about what kind of collateral you really need to do to get your business up.
And sometimes for you, it's just about connecting the dots. I just need to get you connected with this person.
I just need to connect you with Brian. I just need to connect you with Carla. I just need to, y'all gonna need to go have lunch. So when you ask what the chamber brings to the table, we try to bring as much education. We try to bring as much resources. But fundamentally, in the old school logic, we are a networking group.
Yeah.
And we are bridging connections between people and their resources, but also everybody essentially is in sales in some level. You're either selling yourself or you're selling your product. And getting that exposure for that client is the number one thing we do.
You know, the thing that just really impressed me, there was a chamber gathering over breakfast at Kayla's Kitchen here a month or so back. And, you know, it was very informal, but it was very hyper focused on what are the needs right now and how can I connect the dots. And I think one of the things that we're talking about is how to find talent, who's struggling to find talent. And for me to be able to hear that and understand that you've got companies that are much larger than me that have the same struggles that I have, and they don't have it all figured out, but maybe they have one piece of the puzzle that they can, you know, let you have. I think someone from Origin Bank spoke up at that one, and they made the statement, we are all, whether we have a position or not, we're always looking for talent. If we find that talented individual, we're going to make a way to make it happen, because talent's so hard to come by.
That's right.
Nowadays. And I don't think that, I think we've got a fantastic education system in Northeast Louisiana.
Sure.
I think it does need a little bit of tweaking in some areas so that we have a little bit more workforce ready coming out of high school. We've been so heavy on college prep for so many years, and I'm not trying to take anything away from college, but I think that there's some kids that, or young adults, that college is not right for, but if we gave them the tools in school to be successful in a trade, we're going to be positioning ourselves much better to compete for business when it comes in.
You're so right. So we sat down with some college kids and some high school kids about a year and a half ago, and I asked them, hey, tell me what the number one industries in your backyard are. I just want to know if you know what's out there to start with. Most people can say graphic because it's a big, huge building. Most people can say Glenwood or St. Francis or maybe the bank, or if your dad works for whatever company, you have that exposure level. But when we really started talking about, tell me a manufacturer in Ouachita Parish, other than graphic, very few people can say Set Point or Plymouth Tube or Louisiana Plastics or any of those people that are making huge economic impacts. Okay, put that aside. What else is the number one driver in the parish? And nobody really realizes it's Ouachita Parish Schools is like the biggest employer.
Yeah, they're the largest. If I'm not mistaken, they are the largest employer
payroll-wise.
Yeah.
And so I want those young people to better understand first, what are the things that are in your own backyard? Because like you said, when people say there's nothing to do here, they also have this implied idea that there's no opportunity here too.
And which I'm sure
That's
you
not
hear
true.
on a daily basis that I can't find anybody to fill this position.
Oh, every single day.
And typically it's not that low paid position either. It's we're talking management, middle management, upper management, that people are trying to fill positions, or skilled trade crafts that they're trying to get to come into work with them that are making, $30 an hour, $35 an hour.
And so to that end, we're trying to make sure that people know what's in their backyard, okay? And then also, when you come to me as an employer and you say, I can't fill this welding job, where have you been looking? Let's start very honest with each other and say, I posted on Facebook one time. Insufficient. We got to make sure we're going to the right tool for the audience that you're getting at. And it could be as simple as going to West Ouachita High School and talking to that welding class and growing them up from the start. This is where the chamber is going in 2023 and 2024, is mentorship, educational opportunities, and plugging into workforce and making sure that we don't duplicate what's already in the community, but enhance what's there. So if you're reading to third grade kids, I want to celebrate that. But I also want to make sure in fourth grade that there's somebody else there too.
Sure.
And so we're starting a program where we're inventorying the entire community of assets with our partners like Children's Coalition, United Way, all these people, and making a complete map of what's out there in the parish, both in timeline of who you serve. Maybe you serve 50-year-olds getting retooled for their education, whatever it is. And geographically, what are your limitations? Are you only serving elementary kids at Riser? That's fine. I just need to know so that we can build a map of what are the resources in our community. And then you're doing a reading program at Riser and you think that third grader really wants to be a vet. Let's go let them shadow a vet. Mm-hmm. That's where I can come in and plug into the community and start getting those kids not underestimating what's in their own backyard, you know. And so when they get to the 9th grade and they have 2 pathways, either college is the 13th grade, which I think is maybe an undervaluation sometimes, or like you said, all these other trades and industries that probably could make more with less debt. Let's make sure that those possibilities are in front of them.
Sure.
And so that's the vision as we go forward as a community and as an organization.
You know, so one of the things that I remember when Carla was running for school board, and hopefully I'm not misremembering this, she was in a conversation with you and we're just talking about the needs within the classrooms and things of that nature. And I think you mentioned to her that we have a business community that wants to get behind education so bad. They just need to be told where to plug in at. They just need an ask. The money, the funding, the willingness to support is there. We just need to know
and I'll
where to plug in.
I'll even go you one up from there. Right now let's not get into politics at all. But no matter what your politics are, money is not the problem right now. There is no level of government that's got a true money problem. It's what are the priorities for the money.
Right.
So and we're spending, by the way, your great-grandchildren's money.
Sure.
So let's be very conscious of the decisions we're making with it and make sure that we're making long-lasting decisions. So when we talk about all these programs in government, I keep going, it's not a lack of money, y'all. We're standing on the precipice of greatness. We just have to execute. Yep. So for us, Can
you say that one more time? Just so
it's one of my favorite sayings, and there's a part 2 to it. Standing on the precipice of greatness and trying not to screw it up.
There you go.
And so there's a more colorful word, but that's my favorite saying. And we are so close to making some. Never has there been a time where so many things are changing. There is a whole new group of young people moving up in workforce. There is a whole different evaluation post-COVID of what it means to be in the workforce. No longer is it enough to go to a business for 30 years. That business has to meet other expectations for an employee. Yep. I think when we talk about, hey, I've been looking for a manager for 6 months and I can't find one and I'm offering $22 an hour and that should be enough. What else is your company values? If your company online has a reputation that's trash, people are reading that. If you're not controlling every expectation and trying to meet your employees where they are, I'll give you a perfect example. We had a young lady come to us 2 weeks ago. She's been with a bank. I'm going to try not to get myself in trouble.
Sure.
For 10 years. And after 10 years of employment, other than her regular vacation days, she asked to have a little bit of release time to go to college. She had never finished her degree. She had made arrangements at ULM to finish those last, and we're talking about 9 hours, okay? So, like, she's this close to her bachelor's. And ULM's going to help her set it up, and she wanted to knock it all out. How hard would it have been for that business to say, all your classes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Okay, let's give you some release time, but these are the expectations on the other end. You would have had an employee for another 20 years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
And they said, no, our business hours are 8 to 5, yeah. and
they missed a great opportunity.
And she's gone. And she went to another bank that has a big name in our community that was always looking for talent, and they were fine with it. And she's got a whole different level of brand loyalty. So when we talk about finding that employee, finding that talent, maybe there's something that you can do in flexibility that allows for those people to make their personal expectations of themselves and their goals for growth. It's very hard as a business person to foster growth and also be worried about that employee growing beyond you and hopping off to another job. But if you believe in them, you're going to build a level of brand loyalty that's
100%
way past that paycheck.
And I think a lot of people, you need to pay a I don't like the term fair wage. You need to pay an appropriate wage for the job you're hiring for.
Sure.
And to get good talent, you may need to pay more than that to be able to keep that talent. But I'm finding more and more that that wage only has one piece of the puzzle. People are at their job more than they are in front of their family in their waking hours. So it's got to be a great environment to be in. So if it's not, why would somebody want to stay with you, no matter how much you pay them?
You're so right. One of my favorite questions that someone asked me was when I was interviewing for a job was, what motivates you and what would you like us to do to help you get there? It was a very hard question to answer on an interview because you don't want to say, oh, I need at least $50,000 a year or whatever your number is. They're asking you, what are all the other things that are going on in your life that we can support you doing that would make you comfortable and make this place somewhere you want to plug into and get involved in? We asked that on our recent job interviews, and it was very clear what people's priorities were immediately. And it was also very clear if they aligned with our culture.
Right.
And so I think there's some little things like that some businesses can take advantage of. And you change the game of, well, I can't find employees. You change the narrative of what you were doing to look actively.
Driving back into the chamber as a structure, something that I've noticed, I don't know how long it's been or how, when I really noticed it, but at least for a year or more, the cooperation between Monroe and West Monroe Chamber, not like this. I mean, it's like they're locking arms together. It's there's no egos that are there. It's how can we grow our community? Because we know that when the east side of the river grows, the west side is going to grow, and vice versa.
Sure.
Tell me about that relationship and how that's come, because I didn't see it before. I mean, we've got one of the great things in our community is we got, I don't know when I can stop saying fresh leadership, but we've got newer leaders that both sides of the river. We've got people that haven't been in both chambers for 20 years. So we got a freshness that, I don't know if that's a good term to use, but it's just like a renewed focus within our community. And it really impresses me seeing the way that the two of you work together.
Well, thank you, but I'm going to immediately text Roy and tell him you said he was fresh. Make his whole day. Roy Heatherly brings to Monroe Chamber enthusiasm for this community like no other. And the cool thing about Roy is he lived here, moved away, and came back. And he came back because he loved the place that he used to live. He came back because he loved the people and culture and all of those things, and his children stayed here. I don't think there's a better argument if your children desire to stay in a place, that community's got something. And so he brings enthusiasm, and sometimes that's all you need. He also brings amazing skill sets, and he's extraordinarily well-spoken, and he's a great community leader in the sense that he is I'm really gifted at, give me the task, give me the organization, let me figure it out, and I'll come up with a structure and a program, and in 2 hours we'll have a plan.
Don't sell yourself short on energy, because I don't see how you do what you do.
Well, that's very kind. Roy is gifted at putting people at a table that don't really want to be there and getting them by the end to talk to each other. So what's cool when you put us both in the room is it's collaborative, it's fun. We can poke fun of each other. Like I endlessly poke fun at him because he comes with a quote to everything. And I love that. I love that he's on brand and on message. He knows that I'm going to be a little bit reserved and I want the voice to be on the person that's there ribbon cutting or whatever. It's so cool to be able to know that the other person on the other side of the table doesn't have an ulterior motive. It's not necessarily a game of chess. While I do want our membership numbers to be better than ever or better than any other chamber, it's a competition, but not. I don't want him to lose a member because we got one. It is collaborative in the sense that when we need a big ticket event, the first person that I reach out to is Roy. The first person that I reach out to is Mayor Ellis's team. The first person I reach out to. So I don't think we used to do it that way. Mm-hmm. But something that lights Roy on fire and me is when somebody starts a sentence with, "We have always," I've stopped listening. Immediately stop listening. I don't really care what you have to say until you come back with a different idea. And you think I have energy. Go follow Stacy Mitchell around for a day.
I have. Well, not for a day, but
you won't make a day.
When they
Her
started,
and Courtney are on a whole level.
And their team, they got amazing people that surround them on it. If you would have told me when they started the whole downtown West Monroe revitalization, the Main Street idea, that it would look like it looks today down there, I'm like, yeah, it's going to take much longer time than that. But at the speed that thing has gotten up, and I know for politics, and which I don't really want to get too much into, that machine is slow to get things going, and I thought it was going to take off.
Takes a million small win. It takes $1 million $100 wins, and so what's happened? I'm on Revitalization Group. What's happened is you have a couple of business owners and some passionate community volunteers that get together and they sit at the table and go, "What's next?" It's not a reflection on failure. It's not a reflection on whatever. It's what's next.
Well, I mean, there was a collective effort, I know, to make it happen, and it's just, man, what an amazing transformation. And I know that we're still not at the finish line or even close to the finish line, but the transformation we've already seen, I mean, it's fantastic.
I'll tell you why it works. It's because we don't have a finish line. There is no defined endpoint to that project. There will always be something that we can reinvest in and build.
Yeah, you're right.
So with that in mind, it's a whole different game when you go, what's next? Because you know that we're going to, Watch Alive as a concert series started as an awesome idea from the Arts Council, adopted and made a home in West Monroe. It has taken an enormous amount of effort, but you know what? We have someone really talented. Adrienne LaFrance Wells, her brain is full of musicians. And that comes from a lifetime of living in music and culture of Louisiana. And so I don't want to speak for her, but I know that when she was attracted to the job of working in the city of West Monroe, it was because she was drawn by the energy of the mayor and what that team was already doing, the 1,000 little $100 wins. And then you put someone, and she's extraordinarily talented, and she's very engaged, and she never stops working all the time. And you have beautiful graphics on social media and an active voice all the time. And there's a list of people that want to play that venue now. And everybody knows it's the last Friday. We better be at Ouachita Live. And now they've one-upped it with grants and are bringing in mainstream blues musicians on a level that we haven't seen before.
That's correct, yeah.
It just keeps building. Now, the humbling thing about when things keep building is you're only as good as your last experience for the public.
Right.
So they don't necessarily reflect on all those things that came before. It's, we went to the last one. It wasn't any good. Not that anybody would say that because it was amazing. But so you have to be conscious of how are we going to keep building it up one more time. And I'm always impressed with what they are able to do. Remember, this is not a city that has a $100 million budget.
Right.
The city gets most of its money from sales tax, and they're not putting that into Revitalization Group.
Right.
Revitalization Group is self-sponsored and homegrown.
In which, as you know, sales taxes year over year, I'm sure, is continuing to decline just because of the online shopping that's happening. But with the mayor bringing shop local back and really promoting that, I think that it's probably leveled off. We've got new businesses that are opening all the time, and being able to have that drive to be able to shop local is what my family believes in. Not say we give up on anything online, but if there's an opportunity to be able to get it local, we want to.
That's right. If you're looking for a washer that fits you may not find it locally. It may be impossible. But if you're looking for kids' tennis shoes, there's probably 4 places.
Right.
If you're looking for a toy, a really cool interactive toy for a 4-year-old, there's probably 6 places that's local. You might not know that the chalkboard has engaging gifts and they're right there on Cypress Street. You might not know downtown in the back of 3 of those different storefronts there are toy shops, on and on. But you're right. It takes a conscious effort of constantly marketing. Hey, this is what it means when you shop local. This is what it means to have 67 cents of that dollar stay in your community instead of 12. And it doesn't mean that you can't shop at Walmart.
Right.
It means that you stayed off Amazon. It means that you stayed off of the only web-based products. And what's so cool about shopping local is you also are shopping at Karen's, Is it easier to find seasoning blends online? Very possibly.
But you don't get that advice from that shop owner on, hey, maybe you ought to try this.
Right. Or, hey, Karen, what's that thing I liked last summer when I was making brisket? Oh, it's this. Or, hey, I want to make my own vanilla extract. How do I do that? Oh, well, you do this, and here's a bottle, and it's a fun experience because you're interacting with a business owner and you're making their dream live. That's so freaking cool. I get so excited going and seeing Becky at Cake and watching her create something amazing. And, Max Porter has really cool Hollister brands and all kinds of cool stuff that I probably wouldn't shop for myself because I would have never gone to that website organically. I found a cool hat. And now that there's less hair than there used to be, that's becoming important, and I'm shopping with a particular person. And then sometimes I get a text message, hey, we only got 1 chantilly cake left. You want it? Of course I do, And so it's a whole different ecosystem. It's a whole different way to interact with merchants.
It's how you build community.
But ironically, it's old school. It's what that street was 85 years ago when there was a butcher that knew your name and a pharmacist that knew your name and everything.
And that's important to me where we shop and do business. You can be having a horrible day at work. I mean, it could be like the worst day at work, like nothing went right. And you support and go into a local business, whether it's a restaurant or a shop, and they just call you by your first name. Mm-hmm. It's a game changer in my day. It's happened to me. I can't tell you how many times that just that personal service of knowing you and they're trying to invest in you because you're investing in their business.
And if you do it enough, strip malls become kind of ugly to you. And a national chain kind of turns you off. And it becomes this ingrained habit that you have a sense of community pride, which carries over into things like we're initiating a clean biz program for businesses to make a pledge that they're going to spend some time probably doing things they would do ordinarily, but be conscious of it. Police your parking lot. Make sure that their dumpsters are kind of closed so trash isn't blowing out. That kind of stuff. Take a sense of community pride and then take a victory lap because you owned it.
Sure.
Something as simple as that makes that person passing through town or those people that are maybe relocating here. We had some people stop in our office and say, we're both about to get married. We work for tech companies. One is an independent coder. One is working for a social media company. We made a map of lowest cost of income, and cost of living, rather. Their incomes are very high. Recruiting those people to our community, if they have a collaborative income of maybe $150,000 or $200,000, they end up with a $500,000 economic impact in your community which is almost a full-time employee in some business somewhere as a result. So I think we have to start thinking about our community in a whole different way. And that sense of pride in you shopping local and taking ownership, picking up that wrapper in the parking lot totally matters to somebody's job.
It definitely does. And it matters to who we can keep in this community. You mentioned about Roy's energy that he brings to things. Excitement is infectious. And if you can have that pride of your community, I look at myself and other realtors that we're ambassadors of our community.
Sure.
We're out in the market on a daily basis, and we should be the ones that are educating the public, not just on real estate, but just what our community has to offer.
That's right.
Because the more pride we can get people to take in our community, it does nothing but increases everything around us, from home values to I would assume that these payrolls within jobs, because people want to be here, things are in demand. I think our community, I know our community has a lot to offer, and I want to tirelessly work to try to make sure the message gets out about our community. I want to dive back in real quick on the mentor program, just a little bit to preparing. Is it strictly just for our early youth? I mean, kind of flesh out just a little bit more so I can have a little clear understanding of what this mentor program looks like, and how I know it's just at the beginning stages, but what is your vision for implementing that?
So my board's vision is that we make sure that the jobs that are here in our community and the educational path to get there are well showcased to students that are in our backyard. Okay? Well, that means making sure that we have career fairs going on, all kinds of things. When we really talk about who is our target audience, it's going to be high school kids. It's going to be kids that are mature enough that we can place them in a bank, a doctor's office, or all the way in the different degree. I say all the time, if I could choose a different path for myself, I would have been an electrician and be retired right now. Because you can go apprentice.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, get a GED in apprentice and be making good money, decent money to start with, and good money on the way to impressive money in a short amount of time.
Same thing with
plumber, HVAC guys. Right now we're entering summer. There is no shortage of work to be had for HVAC work. My good friend waited until last summer until now. She just finished getting an air conditioner just because of lack of parts and lack of people to actually install it. So there's an audience for your work. So let's go down that rabbit hole and say, I have a staff member that's starting now. She's very gifted in leadership development in those areas. Her job will be to create that inventory of community assets and help one-on-one those kids that are expressing interest at Ouachita High School, at West Monroe High School, and on, find a placement to job shadow, figure out good quality career advice, and then, more importantly, for those mentors to give feedback on that young person. So let's suppose I'm 17 years old and I think I want to be a realtor, and I come and job shadow with you for the day, and you go, this kid doesn't want to be a realtor. They're fascinated by the industry and the background. They're really meant for finance.
Right.
Or they're really meant to be a broker. Or they're really meant to be over there. But they can't even bring themselves to lock eyes with a client. They're that level of shy. Really, you got to sell yourself as a realtor. Okay, now let's retool, pivot, find a broker, find somebody else in industry, and make sure that path is elucidated for them, and on and on. And then let's make sure they land in a path that feels comfortable to them. If it means going to college, awesome. Let's make sure that we match them with a program that's here in their own backyard. That's what the program is meant to start doing. Where it goes in the end.
So I think, let's just pause on that. I think that is fantastic. So I've got my oldest is 21. She's at ULM, doing well in school. She's in marketing. But she just doesn't have a clear path of where she wants to go or what she wants to do with it. And I think for her, where she's at in school, I think she's a sophomore now. I tell her it's appropriate that you may not know right now. You got the rest of your life to be an adult. Let's just focus on the work right now, and then we're going to start slowly working into that. But I think if we started off a little bit more into the high school side and exposing kids to different things, so that it'll open their mind of what the possibilities could be, and they could actually see I think it would take our kids that thought they were going to go to college, and they would choose a different path. Say, well, maybe that's not the path that I need. Or the kid that thought, yeah, I don't know that I want to stay in school anymore. Seeing this profession, how it plays out, is like, yeah, I need to buckle down and I need to go to college. You know, one of the largest impacts that affect young people in getting a home is going to be student loan debt. There's a large percent of those people that student loan debt is affecting them that never even graduated in a field, but still carry so much debt that's with them. And I think bringing kids or educating them a little bit sooner to what their options are is going to definitely help the future of this generation that we're bringing up. So I'm really pleased to hear that you guys are doing it. And also you mentioned you have a board, this is the board's vision. And I think it's important for people to understand that you are a very small staff with really big goals and really big vision. And you guys can't do it yourself. It takes your board members to get involved. It takes the community to get behind this and make it happen. You guys can't do it yourself.
Well, and one of the differences in philosophies that I like to say, Monroe Chamber and West Monroe Chamber are very similar in a lot of ways. One of the big differences is Roy Heatherly is the president and CEO of Monroe Chamber. He has a greater level of autonomy to make decisions and go out in the community. And they have a very much of an advisory board that's working collaboratively, and it's beautiful. West Monroe Chamber has always had a history of working with businesses in a more intimate way. We look at our bigger corporate members as subsidizing our time to work to small businesses. That's why you will never see an event that we do that has 27 sponsors. They're going to be 6 higher profile sponsors, and that's what it is. And they're subsidizing this ability to have these other small businesses attend, be engaged, whatever it is. That also means that our board's philosophy is it is a working board. My exec committee and whatever the chairman is that year, that chairman gets hammered. Not in the sense of being intoxicated. I mean, poor David Cole is my chairman this year, and he is the most excellent person at listening, engaging, and finding other people to bring to the table. His theme for this year is open. It's one big open table. And so, but that means that I probably email him 5 times in a day. And if he wasn't out of town this week, we would be talking face-to-face at least twice. It's very collaborative and it's very working function, which means our board is very engaged in decision-making and directionality of what we're doing. We don't necessarily run for permission. It's more, this is where we're at. Where do y'all see us going? And we have some of the best and brightest in our community. Jeremy Tenorello from Glenwood, the CEO. We have Dr. Barry. We have Dr. Esters. We have some of the best and brightest cross-section of our community, both at a high level, large employers and small businesses. We have, making up a decision-making body that can really give you considerable input in a very concentrated way. So I love that my title is executive director. It means that I have a working board and people that are engaged at a community level that are refocusing and making hundreds of little course corrections as we seek to fulfill our mission. It's a little bit different philosophy, though, from the corporate structure up of how we work.
Sure, but I bet it allows the opportunity for buy-in quicker within the community when you have community leaders are saying that, I'm behind this and I want you to be behind it too.
That's right. And you mentioned earlier our member breakfast. Another one is coming up. And that one we're going to try to roll out a texting survey in real time and say, of these things, what's got your issue? And then hopefully have some people speak directly towards that. And again, we take that summary back to our board for the board members that can't attend and listen in real time and say, this is what our feedback is. This is what staff suggests a course to be. What do y'all think? How do we get there? It's almost never a money thing. It's almost never, it always works out money-wise, sponsor-wise, because I think sponsors want to step up and put their name on something when they believe in they have a voice and a choice.
Absolutely. You hit earlier on the advocacy that you guys do on the state and local level for fighting for our area, for the dollars we need, or to make sure that we always remain business friendly. Tell me a little bit about on maybe the state or local level how we have to continue to be diligent to be able to make sure that we stay business friendly here in Louisiana.
Business friendly means that government is supporting infrastructure that gets you there and then helping streamline everything else as a result. Business friendly also means in a time when construction costs are going up 9% a quarter, that you have to scramble to come up and be creative of what partnerships that the government can do to make those deficiencies up. It's funny to me, in my lifetime of 40 plus years, the Louisiana state budget has gone from a $5 billion thing, just that, 4.8, to a $45 billion thing.
That is
and going further next year. To the point that in a time of unprecedented money coming through the state, they had to raise the spending cap that's part of the state law statutes. That blows my mind. And there's no projects anymore that don't start with $1 million. So when you're chasing, hey, we need this bypass that should have been here. Kansas Lane Extender, right? That project should have been done 30 years ago when it was first, in fact, longer than that when it was first proposed, and then it would have cost $1 million. The last little mile that they made up at the state in P1 was many millions of dollars. We have, for whatever reason, collaboratively with fresh leadership, collaboratively because of what the chambers and a bunch of other organizations do. I don't want to take credit for this solely. We are one voice that makes up a lot of voices. We just happen to have 850 businesses standing behind us, so it's a pretty good voice. We're getting funding in Northeast Louisiana at a scale that we never did before. We are interacting with our police jury and talking about economic development in the long term that we never did before, in my knowledge. My knowledge is limited, but it's a different voice. It's a different voice when you have somebody that's representing West Ouachita, Jack Clampett's district. 40% of the roads in the entire Ouachita parish are in his district. We got 900 miles of roads, okay, in this parish. At $1 million a mile plus, how are you going to fix it? Okay, now we all complain about roads, and there's probably not a road in this parish that doesn't need a something. Sure. Drainage, a pothole filled, striping, a red light, whatever it is. But I laughingly say every time somebody says, hey, my road needs to be fixed, cool. How many people live on your road? 4. All right. Let's think about that. In the time that you pay taxes, and it costs us, let's say, $750,000 to do the half mile that's on your road, y'all will never pay enough taxes
to cover that cost.
To cover that road. So where are we going to get the money that supplements that? And you start talking to people in a little bit different way and be transparent about what the money is going from and to. The police jury is doing that in a way. We just interviewed with our police jury for our podcast.
Right.
And every single one of them says, you got an issue? Here's my cell phone number. I don't think that used to be the case.
No, I know it wasn't the case. And I know they're way more accessible.
And they want to talk to you about why that project may take a while. It's not that they're saying we're never going to get to it. It's why it's taking a while and why drainage is important. 2016 changed a lot of stuff. You want to go down a hardcore rabbit hole, talk to Tom Malmay about flooding.
I have.
That day, it's my favorite time when Tom comes to the office because I know I'm going to learn something that I never knew I didn't know.
That is one smart man.
And you know who's got him? Police jury's got him. So we have talented people bringing their considerable brain power to long-term project solutions and using big data to find the answers. Now, do we see that as a regular casual member of the public? Probably not. But how many of us go to a police jury meeting and just sit there and listen?
Right.
I don't even go to very many of them.
And I think it's important for people to understand that, for economic growth and development in our area, there's just not one switch that we can flip. Like you mentioned, everybody's got the land that can build a manufacturer. Everybody's got the power company that says, yes, I'm on board. I can supply the power to it. But if we don't have all the infrastructure in place,
It's got to be there at a capacity they can use.
yeah, but also the workforce to go along with it. And I think we've made a lot of strides with the workforce, and I love what Delta is doing. That is such a huge asset in our community that I've been told numerous times that they are ready to tool up at any given time. If we have someone that wants to invest here, they can come up with the education plan to make sure that we have the qualified people to be able to support that company.
Talk about Delta. I love Dr. Wendy Tustin, Dr. Esters. You put them in a room anytime with industry and they go, yes, and when do you need it? It's not a hesitation. They're going to figure out how to train those people to get where they need to go. It's just a matter now of making sure we have the people to plug into that pathway.
Right.
They will re-engineer a pathway, and maybe the business picks up the tab. It's a lot cheaper than going to a recruiting service and trying to bring somebody in from Milwaukee that, oh, by the way, you're stealing them from that business anyway. Yep. Here's the interesting thing. At a time when mechanization, AI, and all of these things are coming online and have the potential of being game changers in the industry, what does that do for the industry? You're going to have a whole repository of people that are not yet ready to retire that need to be re-educated and retooled somewhere. Delta's pretty much the answer. You've got a whole population of young people that the 13th grade being freshman year may not be the right path for them. Getting them into an industrial mechanic, letting them one-on-one and learn how to run a CNC machine, learning how to actually fix the things that can't be fixed by any other way than a human with their hands. That's Delta. Delta has changed in its voice in years, and you talk about people with enthusiasm. They really believe in what they're doing. I hope that you have a chance to talk with Wendy and Dr. Esters sometime and really get a game view of what they're doing over there, because it's changing people's lives because they're meeting them where they are and providing an educational path that means something to them. It doesn't always have to be about getting the diploma. It means making sure that they have a pathway to a career that's there on the other side.
And the education is affordable too. It's
I think so.
So my oldest, she started looking at needing to take some classes, kind of get not re-engaged, but she started looking at, I could take this class and this class at Delta, and it's going to save me this much money because it transfers over.
Sure.
So it's an affordable education option.
Well,
as
and again, it's different. Why not take English comp with 30 people instead of 65? Why not take math? It's introductory math. Why not take it in a classroom with 24 people instead of 65 or 100 or whatever it is? Why not take intro biology instead of being a lecture hall 128, it's 24, 30.
Right.
It's a different experience. You're not sacrificing anything other than that teacher-student ratio. If you're a student that needs more integration, if you're a student that needs some time and you're over, that's a magical place. And it's online and all that stuff. So I'm really proud. I'm proud of what Delta's doing. I'm proud of the footprint that they have. I'm proud of the expansion. And to the point that I made earlier, one of the people that I pick up and call on a regular basis is Dr. Esters and Dr. Tysonson, because when we talk about workforce development and somebody having a problem, they've got to be in the room because they've got the toolbox that they're bringing. And then we step back.
And that's just a wonderful asset for us to have in this community. Well, look, Kris, we covered a lot of topics.
I hope we covered what you wanted to.
Yeah, we covered probably a little more than I anticipated, but it's good. I want people to. So the takeaway I would like for people to come out of this is that we've got engaged leaders in our community that want the best for our community. We have the tools that are out there to help businesses be successful. And I think our community is very lucky to have you kind of at the helm of the Chamber of West Monroe and West Ouachita. And thank you so much for coming out and doing this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you giving us a voice, behind the scenes of what we do. I think we are our worst salesmen sometimes because we get busy in doing our mission and not necessarily selling. And I think the other thing that people misinterpret about the chamber is it's very expensive. It can be $150.
Right.
We try to meet people at their level and then grow with opportunity. So I appreciate you giving us a voice, and thank you for what you're doing in the community. I'm excited to see what y'all do next.
Thank you for your time today.
All right.
Welcome to the 318 Experience, the ultimate podcast for discovering the best of what our community has to offer. I'm Brian Bendily, your host and local realtor, with a passion for showcasing the people, attractions, and hidden treasures of Monroe, West Monroe, and beyond.